I'd been married to my husband for 3 years, and every day had felt like a picture-perfect dream. He came home early to cook dinner, handed over his paycheck the moment it arrived, and let me manage every cent. I thought I'd landed the last good man on earth, that we'd coast like this, blissful and safe, until we were old. Then, one ordinary afternoon, a WhatsApp bubble from a stranger shattered everything. Hey, hubby. Last night was incredible. Same place tomorrow. Midtown NYC. Miss you. Before we continue, please subscribe to this channel and tell us in the comments where you're listening from. I first met Sean 5 years ago. We've been married for 3. He's the kind of man every woman brags about. Home early, sleeves rolled up, sautéing veggies and folding laundry like it's foreplay. Payday at the Portland City Water and Power Department means a Venmo transfer straight to me. I handle the budget. Until this month he barely traveled, but a new out-of-town project rotation landed on his desk and, as project manager, Sean's suddenly living out of a suitcase. This morning I headed down for the Portland Farmers Market run. He jogged after me with his Harley-Davidson keys. I worry about how thin he's stretched, so I waved him off. You just flew in from NYC yesterday and you're gone again tomorrow. Rest. Don't escort me. Sean flashed that lopsided grin. I'm fine. One whole day home? What guy wouldn't want extra minutes with his wife? I could see the love. Couples don't need ceremony, so I climbed on and let him drive. We were rolling back, saddlebags full of fresh produce, when I caught him glancing at his phone between gear shifts. Everything okay? Work fire, he muttered, eyes still flicking down. Pull over and answer. I never finished. My own jinx struck. The Harley-Davidson fishtailed, slammed sideways into an oak tree along Route 26, and my left leg took the full impact. Pain detonated. I lay gasping. His phone slid across the asphalt and stopped under my nose. Screen lit. Hey, hubby. Last night was incredible. Same place tomorrow. Midtown NYC. Miss you. The avatar, bright-eyed, glossy-lipped, carried the contact name Stella. The agony in my bones froze. Something colder spread through my bloodstream. My good man was cheating. Sean dove for the phone. Panic written in every line of his face. Confirmation enough. Adrenaline trumped fracture. I hauled myself up on the tree trunk and slapped him so hard the crack echoed off parked cars. I didn't care who watched. Who is Stella? Where did you meet? How long? Did you sleep with her? How many times? You bastard. Sean, speak. Brave enough to screw around. Too cowardly to confess. He clutched his reddening cheek. Words drying in his throat under my glare. I called for an ambulance. We rode to Legacy Health Hospital in suffocating silence, while the doctor wrapped my shattered tibia in a cast. I exploded again. You're inhuman. You totaled the bike sexting your side piece. You probably hoped I'd die. Get the inconvenient wife out of your way so you can play house with Estella. Interns gawked. Nurses whispered. Sean hissed. Chloe, can we not do this here? I'll explain at home. I laughed. Razor sharp. So I'm a dramatic of foretelling the truth you conveniently forgot? You didn't worry about drama while you were booking motel rooms. Home. Tell me, where is home? That Motel 6. Off Route 9, in Woodbridge where you crawl into her bed. A crowd gathered. I welcomed every stare. Let the whole Portland metro area know exactly what kind of man Sean is. That night I forced him to drive me to find Stella, and I did my homework on the ride. Stella, 23, fresh diploma, new hire at the Portland City Water and Power Department. Bosses assigned her to Sean's NYC project team as assistant. The pair began jetting off together. One client banquet in Manhattan. Too many whiskeys. Stella helped him to his motel room and tripped right into his sheets. They'd been at it ever since. Imagining her young body curled against his made my vision blur red. I found her outside a Jamba Juice in downtown Portland, planted my metal crutch, and swung before she could blink. I'm Sean's wife. Which Motel 6 do you two call a Midtown? She'd clearly never been slapped by reality. Shock drained her face. You're still in college and you're already stealing husbands. Have you no shame? Stella's eyes snapped to Sean, tears trembling. You're married? Her horror looked real. She'd been lied to, too. She ran, sobbing. Sean started after her. One snarl from me reeled him back in. At home he collapsed to his knees, blaming everything on her seduction. Chloe, you're the only one I love. I'll cut her off completely. Please. Give me another chance. I waited until the performance ended, then hurled the crystal ashtray. It exploded against the baseboard, shards nicking his forearm. I felt nothing. No pity. No flicker of the wife I used to be. Get out. He begged his supervisor for 2 stationary weeks to prove he'd ended it. I pulled his credit card statement the next day. Couples spa in Seattle. Same afternoon I'd confronted her. Then I unearthed his secret Instagram. Thread after thread mocking me. Psycho wife. Dead bedroom, Stella's silk skin makes Chloe feel like sandpaper. Each caption a scalpel, carving the last scraps of mercy out of my heart. Stella was just as shameless. She told Sean, "Sean, I don't mind that you're married. As long as you cut things off clean with your wife, I'm willing to keep seeing you." I went insane. I hurled the evidence at Sean's face, kicking him hard while shrieking. "So this is what you call cutting it off with her?" Sean saw the game was up and stopped pretending altogether. He shoved me hard, sending me crashing to the floor. The fracture in my left leg exploded with pain, so fierce that tears shot from my eyes. But he was no longer the husband whose heart once ached for me. He vented every ounce of resentment straight at me. "Chloe, you're impossible. Why can't you leave whatever happened between Stella and me buried?" "Yeah. You've dug it all up. So what? Who does that help? If you'd stayed rational, turned a blind eye, we could have kept our life together. But you've blown it up so big I can't take it anymore. Let's get divorced. Now." Sitting on the cold tile, I let out a cold laugh and saw straight through him. "Divorce me so you can run off and marry your precious Stella? Dream on, Sean. Never going to happen. I will never, ever give you that divorce. You can't stand me. Then I'll cling to you for the rest of your life. You made my life hell, so guess what? Nobody gets out of here happy." Sean's face twisted in misery. I stroked the ice-cold cast on my leg. The rigid shell reminded me of everything I'd endured. I hated him, hated all of them. I swore I would make them pay, make them bleed for this betrayal. Since Sean had trashed every shred of history between us, I'd tear the last polite mask off. I decided to go straight to his parents and let Eleanor and Richard Sterling learn exactly what their golden boy had been up to. I didn't call ahead. I simply hoisted myself onto my metal crutch and hobbled the whole way to their home in Beaverton, a Portland suburb. Eleanor saw the crutch and gave me the obligatory, "What happened to you?" Utterly flat, clearly indifferent. Richard was parked in the living room with his newspaper. He lifted his eyes just enough to note my arrival. Not a single word of greeting. A minute ago I'd worried the scandal might wound the old couple. Their chill erased every last trace of that concern. I sucked in a breath and laid it out. Sean's affair. The bike crash. My broken leg. Everything. I thought that, for all their frost, they'd still know right from wrong. I was wrong. Soft-spoken Richard, after hearing his son had cheated, turned around and sliced into me. "Chloe, let's be honest. When you married into the Sterling family, you were marrying up. My son is young, successful, and good-looking, and we've got influence in this city. Letting you through the door was already a gift. Men prioritize careers, a little socializing on the job, some harmless fun. What's so strange?" Even if he slipped, Sean only did what every man on earth might do. Must you keep picking at it? You even went and broke your leg over it. Nothing but trouble for the family. He looked so reasonable, yet he spun the story upside down until it stuck to my shoes. Eleanor chimed in, voice still cool, contempt stitched through every syllable. "Chloe, think hard. You're plain, not getting any younger, and your background is thoroughly ordinary. Aside from our Sean, no man would want you. My son can have any young beauty he likes. He chose you, be grateful." They batted the remarks back and forth. I'd married above myself. I wasn't good enough for the Sterlings. I should smile while my husband kept a girl on the side. My eyes were scarlet, my whole body shaking so hard my voice vibrated. "Have you no shame? Sean cheats. He and the homewrecker play house. And I'm the one with a snapped leg, and you expect me to swallow it." Eleanor said, "That's not a swallowing. You should simply stay in your lane. Or when this blows up and you land divorced, you'll be the one no one will marry." Fury flipped me past caring. I jabbed a finger at their faces and let every courtesy shred. No wonder Sean's shameless. He inherited it. The whole Sterling family tree is crooked. Rotten roots grow rotten fruit. You throw a bit of money around and bully your own daughter-in-law. Have you no face left at all? I'd always played the filial card. This was the first time I'd exploded at them. Eleanor flinched at the unfamiliar fire, then sprang up, pounding the table. "How dare you speak like that, uneducated wretch? No surprise Sean found a mistress. Look at yourself. A shrew." "Shrew." Ha! I laughed, wild, broken, half mad. "Fine, if that's what you want, I'll show you shrew." I stopped pulling punches, aimed every line at their softest spots. "You care most about Sean's career, about the Sterling reputation, right? Just wait. Tomorrow I'll park myself at his downtown Portland office gate, this broken leg and me. Every single day, I'll ruin him, get him fired, strip him of his young and promising shine. And that's not all. I'll broadcast his glorious adultery all over Beaverton and Portland. Let everyone see what a fine, upstanding clan the Sterlings really are. Abandon your wife. Gut your vows. How admirable." The words detonated. Their faces went white. Eleanor clutched her chest, wheezing. Oh my. Richard's complexion turned iron. "That's treason. I dare you." I stared right back. "Watch me. I've got nothing left to lose. Bare feet don't fear shoes. You won't let me breathe. Then we all sink together. I pivoted on my crutch and stalked out of that nauseating house, not caring what noise they made behind me. Sean must have phoned his parents, because he barged through our Portland condo door minutes later. He barked, "Chloe, what filth did you spew at my folks?" I gave him a thin, icy smile. "Filth. I only served them the unvarnished truth." He inhaled, fighting for calm. "Keep them out of this. And don't you dare march to my office. Please. I'm begging you." "Beg me?" I laughed like I'd just heard the best joke on earth. "Now you want to beg me when you were screwing your little whore in NYC motels. Did you ever think this day would come? Let me tell you. Sean, it's too late. Chloe, we've been husband and wife for years. At least leave each other a shred of dignity. Name whatever compensation you want. We can talk." How ridiculous. He was actually playing the sentiment card. But from the instant he cheated, every last drop of feeling between us had evaporated. I wasn't buying it. I jabbed a finger at his nose. "I've got nothing to say to a scumbag like you. I don't want a dime. I want your name dragged through the mud. I want you and that tramp to live in shadow for the rest of your lives, never knowing a moment's peace." When Sean saw I wouldn't bend, his tone hardened again. "You're insane. Completely unreasonable." "Right, I'm crazy. And you and your darling Stella drove me here." I snatched the remote beside me and hurled it at his head, still spitting words like razors. "This crazy bitch isn't as good as your sweet young thing, is she? She must be a goddess in bed. Way better than your washed-up wife." "Huh." Sean's face flushed purple. He pointed at me, trembling. "Watch your filthy mouth." I sneered. "Clean? You dare talk about clean? You're rotten from the skin to the soul. Only a shameless little slut would pick up trash like you." Veins bulged at his temples. He raised his palm to strike me. "Where's the justice in this world? He's the one who cheated, who snapped my leg in half, and now he wants to beat me on top of it." I snapped completely, shrieking, "You animal, how dare you hit me?" Over and over. I grabbed anything within reach and smashed it against floor and wall. Vase, porcelain shards everywhere, clumps of soil scattered like guts. Television, the crystal ashtray shattered the screen. The set lay twisted on the carpet like a dying animal. Fish tank, glass exploded, water gushed, and half-dead goldfish flopped on the wet tiles. Perfect mirrors of our marriage, gasping its last breath. I kept smashing, sobbing and cursing like a woman possessed. The place looked like a Category 5 hurricane had roared through. Sean lunged to stop me. I shoved him so hard he stumbled back. He stared at me in horror and disgust, as if I were a stranger who might kill him next. He drew a long breath, turned, and headed for the door, ready to flee the battlefield. I forgot my fractured leg and threw myself against the entrance, blocking it with my body. "Don't you dare, Sean. If you set one foot outside, I'll jump off the balcony this instant. Think my death will let you two lovebirds fly off into the sunset? Dream on. I'll die before I let you win, and before I jump I'll scream it to the whole city. You, Sean, murdered your wife." He froze, terror in his eyes. He didn't dare call the bluff. He retreated a few steps and collapsed amid the wreckage, cradling his head in his hands. In the chaos, Sean secretly WhatsApped my parents for rescue. They rushed over within minutes from their home in Gresham. They were stunned. Their perfect daughter had turned into this banshee. I looked at them, clutching one last thread of hope that maybe, just maybe, they'd take my side, speak up for their child. Instead, they blamed me. "Chloe, whatever it is, can't you talk it out nicely? You've turned the house into a war zone. No man can live with this. Men, as long as he still comes home, that's good enough. Don't make a spectacle. Sean's family is well off. If you divorce, you'll never land another catch half as rich." See, even my own parents preached forbearance, acting as if the whole disaster were my fault for refusing to swallow humiliation. All they saw was the sterling bank account, not their daughter's happiness. Then Eleanor and Richard arrived. One glance at the carnage and they started berating me for trashing their son's property. Eleanor, emboldened by my parents' neutrality, morphed into an avenging queen. She pointed at my nose and rattled off a list of ultimatums. "If you want forgiveness, you'll sign on for these conditions. 1. You will not spend another penny of Sean's money. Earn your own keep. 2. You will serve this family without complaint. That's a wife's duty. 3. No tantrums. And 0 interference in Sean's freedom. Whoever he sees, whatever he does, is none of your business." Absurd. The Sterlings would pay a housekeeper, yet they expect me to be an indentured slave who must also smile while her husband screws around. My parents chimed in. "Chloe, they're offering you a second chance. Accept." I stared at these so-called relatives, every face a mask of sanctimony, and felt the last light inside me blink out. What right did they have to forgive me? Sean was the criminal here, abandoned by everyone. I stepped over the edge. I snatched my metal crutch, raised it high, and brought it down on the architect of my misery, the man I once loved. "Sean." "Arg." He crumbled crumpled, clutching his calf, his face paper white. I tossed the crutch aside and laughed, wild and bright, watching him writhe, hearing Eleanor's screams, seeing my parents frozen in shock. I was drained, yet ecstatic. Call, somebody call, Sean hissed through clenched teeth, eyes dripping hate and terror. Get this psycho locked up. The Portland police officers arrived within minutes and hauled me away. Sitting in the patrol car, I felt no regret, only the sharp sweetness of revenge. But this was merely an appetizer. The furnace inside me still roared. I would make every last one of those bastards choke on bigger, bitterer fruits. Sean's calf was broken, but the medical report stopped short of serious injury. Domestic dust-ups are murky territory. So after a few days, the police released me. Back on the street, I learned the latest headline: Stella was pregnant. The news detonated inside my already shattered heart. Why? Why should I nurse fractured bones? Public shame, family scorn, nights in a holding cell, while they build their joyful future atop my ruins, sprouting new life in the wreckage. No, I will never let something like that happen. Anyone who makes me suffer doesn't deserve a happy ending. A wild plan took shape in my head at lightning speed. I paid someone to pull Sean's Venmo history, followed the trail, and found the nanny he'd hired for Stella. The woman was from a small town in Oregon, looked simple and honest. I asked her to meet me at a cafe in downtown Portland, shoved a fat cash envelope into her hands, every dollar of the private stash I'd saved for years. Along with the cash, I handed her a small packet of morning after pills. Find a way to make her lose the baby. My voice was ice, steady, merciless. The nanny's face went chalk white. This is wrong. No, absolutely not. I sneered. Wrong. Does it have a name? A gender? A social security number? Nothing. So how can you call it a life? It's just a half-formed bastard. The plague spawn of my husband and his tramp. She still hesitated. I kept up the carrot and stick. If you refuse, I can make sure you never work in this state again. Your son either. Do it, and the money's yours. Enough to buy a house back home and retire comfortably. She struggled for a moment, then finally, trembling, took what I offered. The next few days, I stayed quietly at home, calm as if nothing had happened. Sean, seeing me finally obedient, breathed easy. If only you'd behaved like this sooner. I looked at his nauseating face and smiled without a word. Until, a week later, the hospital rang at 2:30 in the morning. What? A hemorrhage. The moment he heard Stella had miscarried at NYC Presbyterian Hospital, Sean panicked like a cat on a hot tin roof, flinging the covers aside to dress. Just before he bolted, I said, slow and mocking, "Oh, so worried about your little Stella?" He froze, spun around, stared at me in disbelief. Realization hit. He rushed over, grabbed my collar, eyes bloodshot. "It was you, wasn't it? You killed my child with Stella, didn't you?" I lifted my head, met his gaze, delighted by the collapse and hatred I saw there. I laughed. "So what if it was me? Did you honestly think you could keep that bastard?" Sean couldn't accept it, backing away, shaking his head. "You've lost it, Chloe. You're insane. That was a sterling child. A human life. A child. A life?" I snorted. "It was nothing but the living proof you cheated with Stella. A mutt like that never deserved to be born." Sean roared. "Are you even a woman? Do you still have a heart?" "A heart. The moment you betrayed me, it died. Sean, you forced me to this." He slumped to the floor, silent. He finally understood. The woman in front of him was no longer the Chloe he knew, but a monster devoured by hate. Stella survived, but her womb was ruined. She'd never be a mother. Watching the woman he loved broken and childless, Sean was shattered, drowning in grief. I felt no pity seeing their pain, only that they were getting exactly what they deserved. Yet the sweetness of revenge didn't last. Some nights I began having nightmares. In them, a small, faceless figure sobbed in a pool of blood. "I don't want to die. I want to live. Why did you kill me? Why?" Each time I jolted awake, drenched in sweat, heart hammering. For over a month this went on. I grew haggard, nerves frayed. Even in daylight I was jumpy, always feeling hidden eyes on me. I couldn't take it anymore. So I found a psychic medium in Portland and begged for help. After I gave him my birth data, he flipped through his tarot cards, brow knitting tighter and tighter. "Miss, you're carrying karmic debt. The child who never arrived is full of resentment, haunting you." Cold sweat burst from every pore. I asked, "What can I do to repay this debt?" He sighed. "Make amends, if not to the child, then to its parents. Let them see your remorse. Perhaps its anger will ease." I knew he meant kneel to Sean and Stella. At first I refused, but the nightmares dragged on for 2 more months, robbing me of sleep, driving me toward madness. One night I stared at the dark ceiling until dawn. In the morning mirror I saw a gaunt, hollow-eyed woman, and suddenly knew, maybe I really had been wrong. I was no longer just a victim. I'd become an executioner. I hadn't only ruined Sean and Stella's bond, I'd erased a life never given a chance, and stolen a young woman's right to motherhood. The realization crashed over me like a landslide, crushing what little conscience I had left. I decided to change, to obey the medium, to make amends to Sean and Stella. I began trying to win Sean back, crawling lower than dust. My texts to him were no longer curses, but timid apologies and pleas. Sean, I know I was wrong. I really do. I shouldn't have gone so far. Shouldn't have hurt that baby. Can we talk? I know you hate me, but please, give me one more chance. Let's start over. Okay, I'll change. I swear, I'll listen to whatever you say. Every message sank like a stone. Sean never answered, never came home, spending nights at Stella's bedside in NYC. I knew I deserved it. If atonement was the price, then this cold silence was part of the toll. I didn't give up. Once my leg healed, I began bringing slow cooker chicken broth to Stella's ward at NYC Presbyterian every day. Stella always turned to the window, showing me only her back, refusing to look. Sean went further. He knocked the scalding broth from my hands, raising blisters on my skin. He had no mercy left. His voice was ice. Chloe, spare us your act. Do you think any of this can bring the child back? Can restore Stella's body? I endured the searing pain across the back of my hand, yet I couldn't squeeze out a single sentence to defend myself. Sean waved me away, disgust in every line of his face. Don't come near me again. You make me sick. Hearing the man I once loved say that felt like a blade sliding straight into my heart, but I only swallowed it because this was the retribution I deserved. Since he wouldn't let me bring soup, I found another way to atone. I quietly fired Stella's private duty nurse and took over her care myself, day and night. At first Stella stayed silent, but eventually she couldn't bear it any longer. She snatched the ceramic bowl from the bedside table and hurled it at me, shrieking, "Get out! Get out! You murderous, rotten hell!" I had hated her that fiercely once, the same way she hated me now, yet staring at her bloodless face, remembering she would never be anyone's mother, a sudden ache opened inside me. We were both women, why torture each other? I sighed, let the urge to strike back drain away, and allowed her fists and curses to rain down. Each bruise felt like it might cancel a sliver of the torment in my chest. All these days Sean had watched how low I was willing to stoop to care for Stella. The look he gave me grew complicated. Beside the anger, something almost imperceptible, softness, began to glimmer. The afternoon Stella was discharged. An emergency at Sean's NYC office kept him from coming. Stella still loathed me and refused to let me walk with her, but she seemed dazed and afraid she might collapse. I shadowed her at a distance. Sure enough, minutes later disaster struck. As she stepped into a crosswalk in Manhattan, a runaway sedan swerved to miss an e-bike and mounted the curb. "Look out!" I screamed instinctively. Too late. Stella stood frozen, eyes locked on the hood, and the impact curled her to the ground in a spreading lake of blood. The hospital was only a few blocks away. I called 911 and the paramedics whisked her straight to the trauma bay. Half an hour later a cluster of doctors burst through the doors. "She's hemorrhaging. The blood bank is short on typo. Any family members here typo?" "I'm typo." I didn't hesitate. "Me, I'm O negative, take mine." I almost lunged forward, rolling up my sleeve. Reclining on the donor chair, I watched my dark blood snake through the plastic tubing and felt an odd sense of release. Silently I spoke to the child who had never drawn breath. "See, I'm giving your mother my blood." I didn't know if it would ever be enough, but I was already broken inside. This was all I had left to give. Drop by drop my blood flowed into Stella, and her pressure finally steadied. Maybe it was suggestion, but that night I slept deeper than I had in weeks. The crimson nightmare that clawed me every night did not return. When I opened my eyes the next morning, Sean was sitting beside my bed. Early sun spilled over him, soft and bright. We hadn't shared such quiet in so long it felt like a past life. I wondered if I was still dreaming. Then he brushed my cheek and murmured, "Chloe, you foolish woman." He gazed at me with no hatred, only a raw ache. All my abject devotion had finally bought his forgiveness. I asked, "How is Stella?" "Stable," he said. "I've called her parents." I nodded, about to say I'd take over her care once I recovered. But Sean added, "Chloe, I've ended things with Stella. From today on she's nothing to us. You don't have to punish yourself anymore." Shock rippled through me. My heart twisted in every direction at once. He had let her go. He was ready to come home and rebuild the nest we had smashed to splinters. After hurting each other for so long, here in the sun-washed ward the hatred, the frenzy, the guilt, all seemed to settle. Sean laced his fingers through mine. "Get strong. Stop scaring me." "All right. From now on we stay calm and live, Steele?" I smiled at him quietly and whispered, "Deal." A few days later he drove me back to our Portland condo from the hospital hospital. While I'd been confined to bed, he'd scoured the house. The wreckage was gone, every surface bright and orderly. Looking around, I felt a warmth I'd thought lost forever. At dusk I slipped into the kitchen to start dinner. Sean's favorite chicken noodle broth bubbled in the pot, puffing clouds of steam that smelled of ordinary life. I was slicing vegetables when strong arms slid around my waist from behind. The knife froze mid-chop. My whole body tensed. We hadn't touched like this in so long it might as well have been another incarnation. He rested his chin atop my head, his breath warm against my hair. I heard his low voice, tender and hesitant. Breathe the word I'd forgotten, wife. Wife. The syllable jolted through me like live current, cracking every scab I had grown. My heart clenched until it hurt, so swollen I couldn't breathe. A surge of grief flooded my nose. Tears spilled without warning, splashing onto the back of his hand. I thought only hatred for Sean remained, but the instant he held me and called me a wife, a fissure split open inside. And I knew, despairingly, that hatred had always been love wearing a different mask. I had never stopped loving him. Wife, I love you, he whispered against my ear. I set the knife down, turned, and folded into his embrace. We kissed in the fading sunset as though none of the heartbreak had ever happened. Thank you for listening to today's story. If you enjoyed the video, please like and share it with friends. We look forward to reading your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe for more compelling stories. See you next time.